is the monthly meeting for the Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force. As a reminder, we are a body, an advisory body appointed by the town to advise the town how they might get, hi, thanks for coming, how they might pursue sustainability and educate residents about the same. And this meeting is kind of the intersection of those two. Welcome, thanks everybody for coming. No, not at all, right on time. So I'm running through the agenda. The way that this is going to work is we open our task force to the public, and so there's going to be a very, very, very brief going through regular business, and then we'll open up to a much more interactive, fun activity. So bear with us, and we will get to the good stuff very soon. All right. So moving through the agenda, we have an elected officials report laid aside. That's if an elected official wants to attend and give us an update. Seeing none, we can move on.
Before we move on,
Robert,
I'll just make a quick announcement on behalf of our district senator. So Matt Lesser's current aide is leaving, and I will be taking over. So if you need to get in touch with Matt, get in touch with me.
Fantastic.
Who's the aide that's leaving?
Ruchi Shet is going. She's from Meriden, and she'll be taking over constituents outreach position at Johanna Hayes' district office in Waterbury.
Because isn't Dallas also one of his reps? Or
He was on his campaign.
he's on the campaign.
Was
Okay.
his intern, yeah.
I'm hijacking the meeting because I know Dallas. I was curious. Is he leaving?
I just figured that would fall in the.
Yeah, it fits very well.
Does he have a chief of staff?
Matt, no.
Oh, okay, so he's just staff and you're the...
Yeah, it's good to have a direct line to Matt.
Hey, Aretha, welcome. Hold a seat. Well, very good, and congratulations to Robert. Let's see. Now's the point where, in a normal meeting, if we don't have a collaborative exercise, we want to open the room to the public. So if anybody has a statement that they'd like to say before we all get going, you are welcome to do so. We only ask that you keep your remarks to about 2 minutes.
Hearing none.
See, hearing none, totally understandable. Next, approval of the draft meeting minutes from February 23rd, 2023. Any discussion on the minutes?
Point of order.
Well, go ahead, Sandy. Yeah.
Do we make a motion to approve, get a second, and then make comments if there are corrections, and then we vote? Are we going by Robert's Rules of Order?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so that would be
thank
the
you.
process. We'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 23rd.
Second.
Do I hear a second? Okay.
Discussion.
you asked-
Now discussion. Thank you very much.
That's my first second.
Is it first second? Not your second first. Comments?
Discussion, comments, none? So at this point, I call for the motion to vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All
Thank you.
opposed?
All opposed?
No.
Very good. Seeing
Abstentions?
none, it's passed. Wonderful. I've got 2 more chances to do it in
Yeah,
the,
you
in
get
the
there,
coming
Gary, don't
section
worry.
here. So
That's all right.
moving on, old business. So there are 2 documents that this group has been working on for. The process actually started in our very first task force meeting. One is the bylaws, which confirm that we have to use Robert's rules, much to my chagrin. And then the second is the website language, basically the page that puts us on the town's website. Let's bring up the bylaws. So we start with the motion to approve and then have a conversation? Okay, so is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the bylaws.
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion?
I have a question. All the changes were made and so, okay.
Yep, every change that you and Alan made were accepted. Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
We had a
We
motion.
just-
We already had a motion
Call
to
the
approve,
vote.
so now we call the
We
vote.
just-
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great. Third time's the charm.
Yes.
Website language. This is the document explaining who we are to the town and also identifying our social media presences, our events, where people can get involved.
I'll make a motion to approve the language in the website as written.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Very good. Discussion. Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent.
I make a motion to give Derek an A.
Just give me enough practice.
Hey.
It'll be great.
Hey.
All right. So now the fun part. So everybody is here because we're getting into visioning for Sustainable Rocky Hill. Sustainable Rocky Hill, if you don't know, is actually a fairly new group in its current form. We were a group of engaged citizens before. We are now, hey, come on, welcome. We were formally appointed to the town. We first started meeting as a formal body in January, and this exercise is kind of to set the stage for what we want to do in the coming year. All of us are passionate, as are the members of this crowd, about sustainability, and we want to see sustainability in the town. So this exercise is going to be something of an open, collaborative visioning session where we talk about our common interests, talk a little bit about what we think needs to happen to get to that goal, and then say, this is what I want to be a part of. This is the group I want to do, to participate in. Change doesn't happen if people feel like they're obligated or they're not really passionate about the work. I think it's critical if, as a group, we want to get to silver for Rocky Hill sustainability, and more broadly, just be a more sustainable town, that we pursue where our passions are. So that's why this discussion is happening today.
Could I make a comment?
Please.
I don't know if everybody's aware that we're even at bronze. Maybe could we back up a little and explain what silver is? Does
Yeah.
anybody know what silver means?
No.
You know what bronze means? Okay, Steph, we got one.
All right.
I think that would be a good
Yeah.
a foundation for us.
So the organizing framework for Sustainable Rocky Hill is a nonprofit called Sustainable CT. Sustainable CT is exactly what it sounds like. It's a group dedicated to helping municipalities around the state achieve sustainability goals, and these are outlined through this multi-step framework. And that's everything from, these address everything from renewable energy to complete streets and multiple forms of pedestrian mobility to, organic farming, to name your sustainability issue. It's actually, if you look at the website, a very broad framework. So we have been organized over the past year, and in August, we submitted an application to Sustainable CT to say, like, hey, measure how we've done. How many points do we get under this framework that you provided? And right out the gate, we got to the first of what will be 3 levels, bronze. We got a certain number of points and then some due to our activities around historical society work, about the pollinator pathways, a number of things that probably many of the people in this room participated in, to be honest. It is relatively easy to get bronze compared to the other levels. They hook you with the good, easy, shiny stuff. And then comparatively, you need a lot more points. You need to do a lot more activities. You need to implement a lot more sustainability policies in order to get to silver. I don't think they have yet unlocked gold, but they will.
I'm seeing that bronze is 200 points.
Yep.
Silver 500, gold 750.
Yep.
No,
So-
I don't know the weight of those points.
Yeah. So it's more than double, right, to get to silver. So it's a weighty task, which is why, again, we're here to talk about the things that are passionate to us, that we are passionate about, so we can push ourselves forward. And that's what this exercise is grounded in. Any questions? This is now a public time, so if y'all have any questions, please feel free to speak now. If not, there'll be plenty of opportunities as we're going forward. Okay, so now comes the fun collaborative part. You can see over here that there's a board with 3 questions. What does a sustainable Rocky Hill look like? What needs to happen for blank to occur? And what do do I want to get involved in? We're going to work our way from right to left and fill out this board as a group, as a community. So what I'm going to ask people to do, and this first stage will take maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes if we need a little bit more time, is to grab Post-it notes and to write down what you personally think would happen or what a sustainable Rocky Hill looks like. So for example, I am super passionate about bike lanes everywhere. I would pick it up and put it down right here. And it's okay if multiple people have the same idea. That's ideal, really. It's okay if it's messy. We'll go through a grouping and clustering. But the goal is to get a big picture vision of what the people in this room, the town, think is important for a sustainable Rocky Hill. Any questions? Okay. Please come up, grab a Sharpie marker and maybe some sticky notes, and over the course of 5 minutes, and this is both the task force and the public, let's write down our ideas of what a sustainable Rocky Hill looks like.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, is that-
And I'll start.
Are we using a particular color?
So orange is actually ideal for the goals. Let's
I would say.
color code this way. Thank you for asking. Okay.
Call to order. Yeah, could be.
And the timer.
I'm not gonna, no. You gotta be in.
I said that once, a couple of times. Congratulated somebody once, never again.
All right, more Post-it notes. Is everybody getting access? Who wants them? I underestimated how many people would come, so feel free to share markers if you would.
Yeah, send a marker down here, Derek. I'm not, for some reason, I don't.
I have
I
a
can't
flare
help.
with me, so you can have this.
Ooh.
That.
Thank you very much.
Yep, right over there. Yeah, oh, that's coming.
Okay.
I've got stickers.
Oh, okay.
Alan's turning these out. Yeah. On the wrong side.
Robert, did we just do this? Thanks.
I'll get the message out. I keep writing on the table though.
Hello.
Yeah, there you go. All right. About 2 minutes left, but it looks like most people have their ideas out. We're an efficient community. Great. Might ask people to stand up and come gather around. Let's get some insight from these. All right, let's let's see if we can make some clusters or some groups of
It doesn't matter.
ideas. Oh, man, I see a bunch that I wish I thought of. Okay, so
Consensus.
here's sidewalks. Yep, that's the thing. So, ooh, somebody got all of them in one. That's fantastic. I know who did this one. You? No? Who did Tree City?
Oh, the edit.
Unless you're
Ed?
Ed.
Ah, okay, great.
Here's a couple of community gardens.
Yeah. And folks, feel free to just jump in if you see some commonalities. Reduce lawns, I think that goes with, I thought I saw no-mo somewhere. There's pollinator.
Yeah, pollinators and momo, right?
There's a couple
They're
pollinators.
together.
Yep.
I put a no-mo down there, Alan, you put a no-mo?
No.
Municipal solar.
I want another, should I game it? Should I go
Composting.
We can make nice little patches of
Composting. Planks. Right, bike racks. Planes, bike racks, these are community.
Oh, yeah, bike racks, there you go.
Yep, yep, I agree.
Sue.
Clean up with hazardous materials. Climate curriculum, ooh, I love it.
I had to be a teacher. Jessica, now that I see you, I remember Jillian. Jillian, now that I see you.
Yep.
Yeah, no, good, okay. I'm here to listen. Nice to.
I feel like there's a cluster here with safer Silas with bike lanes and sidewalks. Affordable housing.
Up in the middle.
Ah, yeah, thank you. He's definitely co-located.
No, I
Yep.
haven't thought about it.
Yep. Right. Okay, this,
Gonna try to
yeah, I love this.
grow attendance.
All right.
The first time we met, Kerry Wood, second time, community center, 12 people. This time, call it 12. Next time, 25.
Yeah, bike racks, bike lanes, yep. Okay, so
I think so.
I'll identify some themes that I'm
Yeah.
seeing here. Some of them are around transit, right? We've got bike lanes, bike racks, we've got pedestrian sidewalks, we've got a safer Silas Keene. We've got a cluster here around growing of living things. Don't get too comfortable, you're gonna be standing for the rest of this. All right, and growing things in terms of Tree City. We've got energy-related things, and these aren't the same, but I'm putting them near each other. Energy efficiency, municipal buildings and solar, basically producing more clean energy and reducing consumption. Public transit, I'll put that closer over here. Native plant escapes. I'm gonna have this a little bit closer to this other idea of pollinator-friendly, no-mow May, educate the public to reduce lawns. Electric vehicles, municipal electric vehicles. That seems related, but not the same thing. It's good public transit. Community diners and block parties, composting in school. Oh, huge composting, right? Look at the enthusiasm around this. And a tool library. Affordable housing, food security. There's a bunch of, it's interesting to me to see the clusters that emerge and then a bunch of standalone ideas that nevertheless are powerful all by themselves. Does anybody feel particularly passionate about one of the cards that they put up? And they want to explain why they put it up there. Robert?
Yeah, I'll just say I wrote climate curriculum because I think we can do a lot of these programs and implement them now and have them sustain themselves for the future. I think one of the ways to ensure that that does happen is to make all the things that are now that we have to like edify people about being sustainable. Make it common sense for kids and start with there. So I just see that being really powerful. And if we're trying to do something intergenerational, we have to start with our youngest generations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
I felt I was the one who put the one about cleaning up hazardous waste because I can't explain how many times I go outside of my house and have to see that boundary. And who knows what dioxins are soaking into the soil and leaving a hazardous biochemical stew for us to have to invite into our drinking water. So I know that there are political mountains to move to get this done, but it's not only a huge eyesore, but it's hazardous to our whole our whole ecosystem.
Absolutely. And so I just put up a card here that says brownfield restoration, which is a very related point to this topic, and it is explicitly outlined in the sustainable CT framework. And the town has gotten a number of grants to facilitate brownfield restoration as well. So it's a yes and. That's absolutely true. Anybody else? Please.
I did the ones about like municipal solar and municipal electric vehicles, just because I think that those would be easy to implement, and they seem like low-hanging fruit to me. I mean, not easy because they're like expensive, but it's just a decision you would make to spend your money in that way versus a different way.
And so I'm sorry, you said the
It was
electric
the
municipal,
like solar on municipal buildings and municipal vehicles that are like owned by the town.
Right. Okay, great. Then that makes a lot of sense here. Sewer or something similar. I had a question about the tool library. Who put that down?
So that's just like a book library, except, you know, why should I have a chainsaw and you have a chainsaw and then you have to go buy a chainsaw? If there's a tool library where people can come, check out a tool, you know, whatever it is, use it and bring it back. You know, it lowers consumerism, and it builds community. I also put up the community dinners thing, and that's just sort of like micro, but in the macro, I think, you know, building community and inviting people into whatever it is that comes, I think that has to be one of the prongs along with policy and education, but also that community invitation. And,
Sustainable CT wants everything to be done with equity so that you include every aspect. You need one senior citizen and some children and some different.
Yeah, more than one, so.
Yeah.
We've hit our quota. No, I totally agree. Like, it's not just sunlight and birds and whatnot, it's people. And we exist in this community, and we should benefit from it.
I'm passionate about the organic materials. I mean, the town can say they're taking care of it, but I don't believe it for a minute. We're still sitting on that money. We got the grant, we did the work.
You're referring to the SMM grant, the
If
T
we're
grant.
waiting for the trash company to build an aerator, composter sometime, someplace, I say no. No, we're still shipping all that organic stuff out to a landfill. And that's just unacceptable, especially since we have the money to fix it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Come on.
We have the resources. What can we do with them?
I put up the local food security too, and I think that is really important, especially as climate change hastens and more people are having a hard time making their grocery list, you know, stretching their dollars to make it.
Yeah.
And I think that the community getting involved in that somehow, and for people to feel like they can live here and they're, you know, safe and cared for,
Yeah.
is very important. I know my garden always has more than I can use.
Right.
We have the food pantry. We'll put
Yes.
you in touch with bringing it in
Oh, I
on
know.
Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And I'm not too sure that there's anybody that goes and volunteers to take the excess produce and bread supplies from the grocery stores and bring them to the food pantry. I see that in Hartford all the time. 200 pounds of produce comes in on Monday. Now, we don't need 200 pounds for Rocky Hill, but there are those organizations that will collect it.
So that's a great example of an activity which might happen in the next stage here, about like what can we do to achieve these goals. Before we move on to activities, is there any other burning issue that people feel like they want to explain why they put it on? Alan?
I put up the Safer Silas Dean as a broad channel for discussion, because I think the brick sidewalk treatments that are in place is good, but I think it's also a baseline. And I think we could add to that with either shorter pedestrian crossings, narrowing of the lanes, considering that there are sidewalks. Those sidewalks could be bumped out a little bit so you could have multi-use, keep the cars on the roads, keep the bikes and the pedestrians elsewhere, and there's space there. General town discussion about Silas Dean.
Yep, wonderful.
Well, just to piggyback on that, the connection between Rocky Hill and Weathersfield.
Absolutely.
It doesn't exist, there's no sidewalk connection, and it's like really hazardous right there. I would usually detour to Main Street. It was like a long detour too. Detour all the way to Old Main Street and all the way around because it just isn't safe to go under that underpass. There's no sidewalk there and there's people getting off the highway really fast.
There is on this a grant that's being considered and studied called the RAISE grant. I don't know what RAISE means, but I know the S stands for sustainable. I don't know the acronym entirely, but that's state coming in and looking at the problems with Silas Dean, including that underpass. There's 20 feet of space on either side. There's clearly enough room to walk there, but it's obviously burdened by on-ramps and off-ramps, and how can that be managed? Can those off-ramps have lights?
And this is all linked to sustainability in a number of ways, but one is that like if people have no option but to get around by car, that guarantees that mobility equals emissions, and having walkways and bikeways and all this other stuff makes more of mobility possible in a greener way. Okay, so these are all fantastic, and I know that there are some causes up there that people are particularly passionate about that they didn't get a chance to talk about. Yes, obviously. Okay, next exercise, we're going to do something called a dot vote. Has anybody done dot voting before? Yeah, I see a couple of nodding heads. So what we want to do is get a sense of, in this room and with this wealth of ideas, what is a priority for us to tackle? So I'm going to be handing these out. Now, I want to be clear. I think any card that's up here is something that we can pursue. The goal of this exercise is to identify where there's a common vision, where there's a common interest. Because I heard a bunch of people saying, oh man, I wish I had written down this card. And just simply having a lot of cards doesn't necessarily mean that there's a lot of buy-in. And then the SRH team. So what I'm going to ask you to do is you have a set of maybe, I think, yeah, take 4 dots and put them next to the cluster of issues that you think is important. If there's a very specific card you want to put the dot on, that's fine. If you just believe in the general area, put the dot nearby. You can double up if you want. If you are, like me, very interested in tree cities, 4, go for it. If instead you want to spread it out and put it on a bunch of different ones, that's also fine. And this one will be a fairly quick exercise, so let's do it in 2 minutes or less. Any questions? Let's go. 4. Nope. 2 minutes.
You're like a vulture also. That's the first time.
Here you go.
Yeah, because like
Here,
municipal
here.
buildings, I meant to put one on there.
No, no,
like I'm
you
limiting
can't.
myself.
Oh,
This
you-
is, you know.
I thought you meant for others.
And then I volunteer to teach second graders. And I do some-
There you go, Susan. That's you.
Oh.
See ya.
Next Thursday.
Bye.
Wonderful.
Who's the technology disaster?
Yeah, well, yeah, I thought so, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm seeing here, just very broadly, there's a lot of passion, just as there is a lot of cards for transit-related solutions, bike lanes, sidewalks. There's a lot of focus on organic farming and community gardens, the growing of food. There's a lot of focus on the pollination, composting, and champions of these various causes here. This is fantastic to see. So there's passion all the way around. Welcome. Okay, next. So we have been talking quite a bit about what does a sustainable Rocky Hill look like to us. The next step is to think about what needs to happen for this to be, right? This can happen both at the individual level, at the town level, right? So, you know, I said I want bike lanes everywhere. At the town level, I might say like, you know, that there's a draft complete streets resolution ready for people to vote on. I'd support that getting voted for. But at the individual level, it might be organizing to, you know, let people know about the existence of bike lanes or prioritizing which streets the community wants. Same thing for Tree City. I mean, a lot of this, you know, the town is a major tool for us to achieve these goals, but I don't think we should consider it's just like, oh, well, it's the town's job to do this. Like, no, we're in this room together. We're the ones who are passionate about it. We're the ones who can campaign, who can educate, who can put on events to like invite our neighbors to participate in organic farming or plant pollinators, right? So for this exercise, I would ask you all to grab a marker, grab a blue Post-it note, and for the next, let's say 5 minutes, write down activities that fit this description that meet any one of these clusters that you think is important, right? So you don't have to do just the one that you talked about. If there's a climate curriculum that you're passionate about, go ahead and write down the actions that you think are there. It doesn't matter if you put the card up or not. Any questions?
Should we title our cards so you know which action goes with
Oh, that's a very good point. Maybe what we can do is very rapidly develop some clusters around the topics. So, public transit. Tell you what, I'm not going to do this because it'll slow down the time. When you grab a card, feel free to label it in the group that you think it makes sense in. Like, I'll do an example, public transit. And then under that, write down like pass complete streets resolution. So we'll self-organize here. Does that make sense? Don't worry if it seems a little messy because ultimately it's going to be my job to synthesize it. The idea, really, the important thing is to get cards down on or ideas down on the board. Okay? Another 5 minutes.
Ellen, send one of those over here, would you?
Let's go.
Thanks, buddy. Here you go, Steve.
So I give it bike lanes and put it under town.
And for the SRH team, if you had a passion project that you wanted to get to this year, this is the point where you can get it on the board.
Got an extra marker.
Sure. There's this one, there's a few here.
Which column does this go in?
thanks for coming.
Hey, Derek.
Hey, he said.
Hey, neighbor.
We are writing down ideas for ways to be sustainable, so I came just in time.
These are taken. Come sit in front. Come sit in front. Senator wants to see Ray. Sit in front. Oh. And you can go back to right.
That used to be my job at choir.
Talk or something about a coffee hour on Sunday?
I don't know. I don't know if we need to, but we're all here, so.
Oh, it's a little bit more than just kind of pick our favorite.
Well, we're
I
thinking
think
blue
you're
here
actually
for
Italian
actions,
coming out of it.
but, you know, it's really all okay.
The first ones are what you don't have. There's one.
Okay.
And then those are your votes for that is. Three for safety, biking, for the composting, there's a.
About 2.5 minutes left. Plenty of time.
Blue one are action items. Individually or town.
This is things that we gathering everything. All of this
Data,
stuff,
the ideas.
everything. Defining.
Collating all of this, and then you're gonna look at the actions and sustainable. So
Right.
it's, you know, it's like I wanted to do
Correct,
the land,
correct.
and I can't,
Right.
I need to do something. And you go downstairs,
Right.
sidewalks.
Yeah, and that's where Pam
Yeah.
went into the town hall and everybody ran away from her.
Yeah, she had so much, we never gave her enough credit.
No.
She didn't even get into the
Yeah,
dance.
yeah.
Oh.
As long as you can read it, I guess that's the
You
important
wanna see
part,
what
right?
happened at the meeting, they're gonna look at his eyes.
So this is, if we can, I get this, I might be power.
That is,
I don't think so.
Because last time I went, 7:10. I was trying to think, do we have like a,
Well,
Right.
the last time was
How much do we have left?
between. You didn't go to the movie.
no, the next year,
Seconds.
say 7:10.
Yeah. Oh, this was the February one.
Right fast, Anita.
And then can you help me to start grouping these things? Let's see,
Magic word. I heard my magic word.
Yes. Did you write all of these?
We got number.
I was trying to discuss like everybody's.
Is that everybody
Well,
included? Or?
So we have,
When you're doing the
task
rest of
force.
the plan, this is what you look at when you're a teacher.
It's good to show.
You know, I mean, you wanna shoot yourself in the foot. This is numbers,
Last time it was like 4 and 5.
Yeah, if you got
But
the
you
time and
should say-
patience.
That was so awful.
You know?
Because
Okay, so, same thing. We're gonna try to make clusters about these and see themes and see if there are groups. So everybody come on up and help us with the clustering process.
sign, yes, yes.
Fair group buses.
Well, there's some
Oh my gosh, so there's a lot of enthusiasm for these. Food security, citizens with food trees and bushes, I love it. That's somewhere like in your own community gardens, I think.
These are both trails.
Got no man.
The others?
People are into community gardens. I think they're into.
Maybe right there.
To detoxify properties. Cool.
Put them in with brown.
Oh, wait, no.
Is that
Yeah,
brown?
brown,
Yeah, right
yes.
there. Put it in with brown.
Oh, yeah, we got.
I think so. Youth and student
People that email us
groups.
for the food pantry gardens.
It's probably
You know,
the.
Sarah, you were like, "Move much, you know, next week."
Can I go back and put some dots on some?
Sure. Grab a thing, you can put 4 dots down.
That was gonna be my next
People on
question.
the list, but they don't respond. They support it or somebody is doing it.
The concept of the community garden, if
Yeah.
All on
This,
one thing.
I mean, it's specific about food.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like old
but
fashioned.
like that, I think that's under the gardening.
It is.
So there's like a couple of axes here, right? There's the public spaces for gardening, and then there's personal. There's public, like home and composting, and then there's the broader composting programs. Okay. So, well done. I have to say, this is a very efficient group. There are some major clusters here. Over here, there's a lot of composting enthusiasm. Anita clearly paid you all off before this event happened. Okay.
Thank you, you'll get cookies next month.
What
Those are
will they be
compost
organic?
cookies.
They will be organic.
So,
They're really tough now, actually, because at first you're like, that's pretty good. You're like,
Grown in compost.
They don't contain compost.
okay.
take one home. By the time I
So, some are around educating residents on composting, right? And I'm gonna start, I'll mark this up. So, right, this is the idea that change happens through us as a town, as individuals, composting food scraps where we can, right? There's another important cluster here around composting in schools. And, you know, I take this also to be using my powers of facilitation. I say, wouldn't that also be nice in other municipal buildings that produce a lot of waste, right?
Senior center.
Exactly.
Starts PD. Do they produce?
And then there's another area for composting in a community garden space. This one is exciting, right? Because we all,
We're doing it.
We're
Yeah.
already started.
We're doing it.
yeah, I mean, there's the IFPG, and then there's also the former Straska space, which is planned to be a community garden. And I think plans are still underway, but like we can shape it and say like, yeah, it's really important to have on-site composting there, or you know, there should be, you know, let's make sure that there is space for people to plant all sorts of food-producing items, right? So, community spaces. All right, we've got two people that say no mo may. Does everybody know what no mo may is?
No.
Yeah. Alan, do you want to define no mo may?
Just what it is, you don't mow your lawn in May. I don't want to mow it.
People do that, Alan.
I said the town doesn't mow in May.
Okay, well,
Just to get the
Oh,
word
just the
out, get
town.
the word
Okay.
out.
I think it's
So
fair that we're having
just-
individual versus town discussion, so I can't control the town's mowing. I can only control mine.
You can suggest that they can.
Of course.
Oh, it was a huge discussion one night, but if
So-
the town didn't do it, that would have educated people as to the fact that mowing grass is bad.
And
She's
didn't,
better at
didn't,
explaining.
didn't the state not do the highways for, like, they did like an extended period where like everything got really long. It was a number of years back, but like there was some sort of crisis with funding and they just didn't know the medians for a really long time.
Town
It
of
was probably
Windsor
beautiful.
is, the town of Windsor is doing a no mow 91.
Yeah.
They have signs in them and stuff.
Creating a
The
map.
state of
That's awesome.
Vermont, the
Wildflower.
state,
Wildflower.
if
And-
you want to
and
know
just
the
to be
resource, the
clear-
state of Vermont also does no mow for the medians on I-90.
Vermont.
And they plant native plants in the middle of their median and then.
I think thank you. I think it's wildflowers at the 91 stretch of Windsor that is going to be not no mow, but it'll be actually cultivated.
Right, never mowed.
Never
Never
mow.
better.
You
Right, so
still
there's
actually
there's
do
a
mow
couple of
once a
different
year, or the woody plants grow up and.
there's a couple of different policies at play. One is planting wildflowers and things that are not your traditional lawn because they help pollinators. They provide a habitat, an ark, if you will, for wildlife and create an ecosystem where right now just empty lawn is dead,
What
right?
does ARC stand for?
Huh?
What does ARC stand for?
I'm glad you asked, Alan. And those of you who are part of the Sustainable Rocky Hill Book Club, shameless plug, we're reading a book called We Are the Ark by Mary Reynolds, who talks about the role of people in encouraging an ecosystem so that we can be stewards for nature. It's not, you know, nature's over here and we've got our living space over here. No, we're all together on this big ship. And how might we facilitate life?
We're taking two of everything to ensure that
So we have a
the
backup.
planet is sustained. I mean, we-
So it's not a biblical thing.
No.
It's
No,
the,
no,
no.
The act of restorative
Yeah.
kindness.
Thank you. Yes.
I just listened to a podcast today about her.
So, and no mow may is also this idea that like mowers, especially gas mowers, produce a lot of emissions, and wouldn't it be nice to like break the mold of what we think a lawn should look like?
Absolutely.
You know? Okay. So there's a lot of biking oriented things. So organized group activity around bike riding to encourage bikes and bike ridership. Producing bike lanes and sidewalks. Walk bike paths. Basically, talk to people about biking. This is a thing we can do. And then also make spaces for people to bike, right? Doesn't matter how passionate you are if you don't feel safe on the roads. Support for public transit. So not everybody is interested in biking. You know, buses are incredibly efficient in terms of emissions. Move a lot of people far more efficiently than cars.
Well, they're gonna start charging again next month.
That's right, and I think I saw something about this. Fare-free bus. And so currently the state is putting the bill for free, right? But we can.
I think we have to, when we're talking about public transit, we have to pay attention to the way traffic has changed since 2020. Right? A lot of people are working from home now, and so they're not driving in, not as many folk are driving into work every day in the city as they used to. And so, you know, we've got all these little shops along the Silestein or whatever, that if there was you know, I'm showing my age, but a trolley. Yeah, you know, like if there was something like that, you know, that would bring you up and down the street.
Yeah, a little electric bus that just loops.
Yeah.
Around, no charge, no schedule, just makes a 15-minute loop around.
It's called a senior van.
People under 55 would be allowed to ride it too.
The Easy Pass system.
Easy pass, yeah.
Does anyone know if there are plans for a north-south access to that? Because that would tremendously increase public transportation.
Never heard of this. Can you say more about that?
Well, you know, the Green Line, the one that runs east-west, and I don't know if there are any plans to do a north-south access, but it would enormously increase our access to public transportation. I just have never heard anything about any plans to do that, but has anyone?
No, but it's worth looking into. There's the brownfield / toxicity, basically cleaning up degraded land. There's affordable housing. Who wrote this one, and why is this important? Ed, you want to talk about that?
Affordable housing, well, the state says we should have 10% in Rocky Hill and all of our towns, but Rocky Hill now has about 5.13%. So we're, you know, we don't have enough affordable housing. And one of the things that has to happen is we need to create an affordable housing committee in May, right?
Because we're not mowing, so we'll have more time.
Every time.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how interconnected every single topic is.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't be surprised, but notable.
Everything is
It's
connected.
important to
yeah.
make sure you have socioeconomical people, the whole variety,
Yeah.
so that you can find the workforce.
Mhm.
Right. Not
Not mowing
isolated.
lawns, but, you know, in all the new restaurants that will spring up when we have a town center and we're walking around.
There are several about pollination and supporting pollinators, and more broadly creating ecosystems, creating an arc.
Would anyone besides me cry when they put all the new plantings in along the Silestein, between the Silestein highways highway and the new sidewalks, I walked along there just for giggles. I couldn't find a single native plant. There may be some in there, but I couldn't find a single one. They were all standard, run-of-the-mill developer. I thought, oh, we missed an opportunity.
Yeah,
It's
and
also
I
going to
think-
dig it all up.
I
but-
think since that happened, the town passed a pollination resolution. It's not an ordinance so much, but saying like supporting native plants where possible in townwood land. But maybe that could be strengthened.
Yeah.
We have community gardens and the idea of people growing food. This is related to sustainability in multiple ways, right? Like growing fresh, organic food is healthy for a community. As Malia was saying, there's you get a connection when you have too many tomatoes and you have to give it to your neighbors, or you get too many eggs and you have to give it to your neighbors.
Garrett, can I say something about, I don't know
Please.
if you're including the food pantry garden within that, but if you're talking about individual versus town, one of the things I think we need to have is a discussion on how the food pantry is actually run. You know, if you have a discussion with Human Resources, you'll find that you have to actually put an application in to go to the food pantry. And some people think, why? Why would you need an application to go to the food pantry? Anybody should be able to get food, right? And so one of the things I learned when I started in the food pantry garden last year was that issue, and I didn't pursue it because I didn't see any, time or effort on my part. I didn't want to put the effort in to try to make that change because it's a big change. It's a paradigm shift, and if it's but I will tell you that the people that volunteer at the food pantry garden, when we bring that up, they go, yeah, anybody should be able to get food. Why is there an income limit?
There's
I can actually speak briefly to that. I've spoken to Ken, who runs it on a daily basis, and he says they regularly get many more items donated than the people who use
Right.
the food pantry do. He takes truckloads down to Middletown, down to a soup
Yeah.
kitchen down there, down to the Vincent St. Paul, where they are always in need of. But if the answer to your question is, well, we can't have more people going to it unrestricted because there won't be enough food, that's not an issue, at least at this time. They literally get more donations than they can give away.
There might not be fresh
Because they-
tomatoes every time, but there will be.
Okay, so food pantry
Whatever they want.
awareness and distribution of food is an
Part of
important
that
theme.
food insecurity, right?
Wait, and trails by the river.
Yeah, don't put a barrier in the way.
So this is, I might say, this is access to nature.
The food pantry's not just fresh produce.
No.
There's a lot of canned, all kinds of
Right.
canned there.
Right.
Right, and it's the variety that's too bad. People have probably all bring the same thing. Our church was more closely aligned with it, and they'd say, no more tuna fish, no more tuna fish, we catch them. And so we get it. So it's a case of supply and demand. Everybody brings soup.
Okay,
Pasta.
so
Spaghetti.
we are in the final 5 or 6 minutes of our session. You guys are amazing. The last thing that I'm going to ask is, we've talked about a bunch of great groups of actions that we could do as a community. My request to you is you grab now, whatever color this is. I'm actually colorblind. if you
That's
don't know.
green.
Yeah, green.
Lime green.
And write your name down next to as many of these clusters as you want, right? The idea being that if we end up forming groups to take action on this, to dig deeper into food pantries, to dig deeper into municipal composting or increasing municipal green energy, that we know who wants to be in the room for that discussion, right? And to be clear, this is not committing anybody to anything. This is more like, hey, yeah, send me an email when this goes on. I'd like to know.
But please give us your email and your phone number.
But give us your email, phone number, address, social
We know how to
handles,
find you.
and I'll be really sad if you don't come.
You don't want Derek to cry.
No. It's not pretty.
Makes his mascara run.
Okay, any questions for this final stage? Very good. Come up and grab some green. And we'll set the timer for 5 minutes.
Just a name or something?
A name, and actually, now that you mention it, I've got a sign-up
You have a
list.
master contact list? I mean, you have mine already, so
I
it doesn't mind.
know where you are.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Name,
Jennifer Dunn.
There's 4 guys.
email.
I mean, I could,
If you want me to put it again, just.
I don't know.
I didn't know you'd be here, but you also said when you're ready for Saturday.
Great.
Well, I gave it a little back.
I'll put my name anywhere.
And is it
Over there.
No, I just want to put this down in the place on the file.
No, so this really. That's what That's right. That's right.
Is there going to be a
And which one do I now want to put my name?
participants? Because otherwise I could just, so I could just write my name on this.
Absolutely, I will be collecting names.
I'm gonna stop at this point.
You're already gonna be on all of them anyway, right?
I had to stop at 4.
There we go. How's your garden doing?
Oh, it's going great. Going great. I put some seeds in already.
Yeah, how are your trees out front?
Oh, they're doing well. I have to buy another peach tree because my peach trees died 2 years ago. I put 2 new ones in, and one of them died again. So I got to go get one more peach tree. And I started pruning. This week.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, Chris did our blueberries last week, or 2 weeks ago maybe. He did a bunch of pruning a couple weeks ago. I was like, pear, apples, blueberries. We got some new stuff.
my apple trees are growing like crazy. They put up so many water sprouts, And so I'm trying to I'm reading books, looking at videos, and it's like, okay, I know I can get these under control,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got you tagged.
I went
on
to, I wish
already.
it was like more recently. I went to
so thank
Really
you.
Green, it was like a printing workshop with Nofi, I think.
How many do we have? 1, 2,
And they posted it, the guy that wrote like Orchid Day, Orchard Tree or something. He did a class and he took us to the orchard in
Perfect.
Middletown.
That's awesome.
It's like the one on the really big hill.
Yeah, nice.
And they walked around and talked about like where you would cut on there and like did some demos. It was so cool.
I joined a group called Plant Amnesty. They're out of Seattle, and I've gone to a number of their webinars and download. They have a great resource. This woman named Cass Trumbull wrote a book on pruning.
Many
I
of
bought
you
her
are
book.
frequent attendees.
So,
If you
that's been
have not
my
already given
source.
your name and email,
Well, if you haven't been to the NOFA conference,
I know you.
I feel like
I'll
they-
just
they
ask
do
that you
good
come up
classes.
and give me your contact information so I
The
know who to
Northeast
follow up
Organic
with
Farming
after the fact.
Connecticut has one, all the Northeastern states have them.
I'll look them up.
Yeah, there was a big conference in Massachusetts, I think, every year too.
I know, right? Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
I said in your chair.
Okay. So it is 6:30 on the dot. I know people have dinner and families and whatnot, so we'll wrap this up really quick. I just wanted to reflect that this is awesome. Thank you everybody so much for coming. We've got groups of people, almost all of these have names next to them, right? I'll let you guys go in 2 seconds. Could I just get everybody's attention for the close?
Who knows how to whistle? You go whistling?
if I could get everybody's attention to close out. No worries, no worries. Just want to make sure that everybody can go home.
And one of those.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, we have a vision for what sustainable Rocky Hill should look like. Yes, yes.
Timing.
We have a bunch of activities that we think that we want to get around and organize behind. And we have a bunch of people who are engaged and want to do these activities. So the next steps are for the Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force to synthesize this. These actions are going to be our inspiration for coming up with our plan. And as we do more task force meetings and as we arrange more events, you'll probably see these terms coming up. So I just want to say thank you to the public who came out and spent their valuable evenings in working with us to build out this plan. This is tremendously helpful, and you all deserve a round of applause. Thank you so much. If you haven't already given us your contact information, there's a piece of paper right there. But everybody have a great day.
Next, Derek. Next week. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, we did.
All right.
Second, all in favor?
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'll see you soon.
See you around.
All right.
See you